Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on imported products from Canada. In response, Canada stated that the cost of Trump's 25% tariff would be borne primarily by Americans. Outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau addressed journalists in the capital, Ottawa, warning that if Trump implements this plan, Canada will retaliate with counter-tariffs, leading to a price increase on almost everything for American consumers. Trudeau also pointed out that nearly a quarter of the oil consumed daily in the U.S. comes from Canada. As a result of this dispute, Canadian citizens decided to boycott American products. The tensions between the two countries are escalating daily. Canadian business owners have started removing American products from store shelves, and this movement has gained significant traction on social media. Many Canadians see this as a necessary response to Trump's aggressive trade policies, while others worry about the long-term economic consequences. The situation has drawn comparisons to the ongoing boycott by Muslims against Israeli products. The fact that Canadian citizens are now adopting a similar strategy has become a topic of ridicule among some Americans, who dismiss it as ineffective. Trump's decision to impose tariffs on Canadian imports was part of his broader protectionist trade policies. Throughout his presidency, Trump argued that the U.S. had been taken advantage of in global trade agreements and sought to renegotiate many of them, including NAFTA. He believed that tariffs would help bring back American manufacturing jobs and reduce the trade deficit. However, many economists warned that these tariffs could backfire, leading to higher prices for American consumers and potential job losses in industries dependent on Canadian imports. The Canadian government was swift in its response. Trudeau and his administration prepared a list of retaliatory tariffs targeting key American exports, including steel, aluminum, and various agricultural products. The goal was to put pressure on American businesses and force Trump to reconsider his stance. Trudeau emphasized that Canada had no choice but to defend its economic interests, and that his government would stand firm against any unfair trade policies imposed by the U.S. Public sentiment in Canada was overwhelmingly against Trump's decision. Many Canadians viewed the tariffs as an attack on their economy and responded with grassroots movements aimed at reducing reliance on American goods. Social media campaigns encouraged Canadians to buy local products and avoid American brands. Some businesses prominently displayed signs stating that they no longer carried American-made items. Supermarkets and retail chains actively promoted Canadian alternatives to American products, further fueling the boycott movement. At the same time, American businesses that relied on Canadian imports began to feel the impact of the tariffs. Manufacturers that used Canadian steel and aluminum saw increased costs, which they either had to absorb or pass on to consumers. The automobile industry in particular was affected, as many car parts are sourced from Canada. Small businesses also faced challenges, as suppliers had to navigate the new tariff landscape and adjust their pricing strategies accordingly. Despite these economic repercussions, Trump remained steadfast in his position, arguing that the tariffs were necessary to protect American jobs. He dismissed criticisms from economists and business leaders, claiming that the U.S. economy was strong enough to withstand any temporary setbacks. He also doubled down on his stance that countries engaging in unfair trade practices should be held accountable, regardless of the consequences. Meanwhile, Trudeau's handling of the situation was closely scrutinized in Canada. While some praised his firm stance against Trump, others worried about the long-term implications of a trade war with the U.S., Canada's largest trading partner. Some businesses expressed concerns that retaliatory tariffs could ultimately harm Canadian industries by making goods more expensive and reducing competitiveness in global markets. Beyond economic factors, the trade dispute had political implications as well. In the U.S., Trump's base largely supported his tough stance on trade, viewing it as a necessary step toward achieving economic independence. However, critics argued that his approach was short-sighted and could lead to unintended consequences, such as strained diplomatic relations with allies. In Canada, the conflict influenced public opinion on both Trudeau and Trump's leadership. Many Canadians felt a renewed sense of national pride in standing up to the U.S., while others worried about the impact on businesses and consumers. The dispute also reignited debates about Canada's economic dependence on the U.S. and the need to diversify trade relationships with other countries. As tensions continued to rise, both governments faced increasing pressure to find a resolution. Diplomats from both countries engaged in negotiations to ease trade restrictions and prevent further escalation. Some analysts predicted that a compromise would eventually be reached, while others warned that the dispute could drag on for years, causing long-term damage to both economies. Donald Trump served as the 45th President of the United States from 2017 to 2021. Before entering politics, he was a businessman and television personality. Known for his populist and nationalist policies, he focused on issues such as immigration, trade, and deregulation. His administration prioritized America First policies, which included renegotiating trade deals, imposing tariffs, and reducing reliance on foreign manufacturing. His trade policies were often controversial, drawing both strong support and criticism from different sectors. Justin Trudeau served as the 23rd Prime Minister of Canada, assuming office in 2015. A member of the Liberal Party, he was known for his progressive policies on climate change, immigration, and social justice. Trudeau emphasized multilateralism and strong diplomatic relationships with allies. His leadership was tested during trade disputes with the U.S., particularly during Trump's presidency. Despite facing challenges, he remained a prominent advocate for Canadian economic interests and sought to minimize the impact of U.S. trade policies on Canada. The trade dispute between the U.S. and Canada during Trump's presidency highlighted the complexities of international trade and the far-reaching consequences of economic policies. While both countries remained important trade partners, their relationship was tested by differing economic strategies and political ideologies. The impact of these tariffs continued to be felt even after Trump left office, shaping future trade negotiations and economic policies in both nations. Trade relations between Canada and the United States, USA, have historically encompassed both cooperation and competition. Recently, Canada's consideration of imposing retaliatory tariffs on certain U.S. products has brought trade dynamics between the two countries back into focus. Canada is contemplating retaliatory tariffs in response to specific U.S. trade policies. These tariffs typically involve additional taxes on imported goods to protect domestic producers and prevent unfair competition. Canada's move is seen as a reaction to U.S. trade policies. Retaliatory tariffs could impact trade volume between the two countries. Canada and the U.S. are among each other's largest trading partners, and any disruption in trade could negatively affect both economies. The agriculture, automotive, and technology sectors are particularly vulnerable to such tariffs. Canada's decision to impose retaliatory tariffs has sparked domestic debate. Some argue that this measure would protect local industries, while others express concerns that it could lead to higher consumer prices and inflation. Additionally, there are fears that such tariffs might escalate trade wars and harm the global trade system in the long run. International trade experts emphasize that while retaliatory tariffs may provide short-term solutions, adopting a more constructive diplomatic approach is essential for long-term stability. Negotiating trade disputes through dialogue would be in the best economic interests of both Canada and the U.S. In conclusion, Canada's consideration of retaliatory tariffs on certain U.S. products could mark a new phase in bilateral trade relations. It is crucial for both countries to carefully assess their trade policies and take potential consequences into account.